Grade 11s, we will be starting with question 5 from this paper. Question 5 says, sketched below are the graphs f of x, which is equal to ax squared plus bx plus c. So f of x refers to the parabola over here. Then g of x is mx plus k. So mx plus k refers to the straight line. Then it says the x-intercepts of f are point A and point C. And then it says the graph of f and g intersects at point A and B. So the point of intersection between the parabola and the straight line is those 2 points over there. And then it says point P is a turning point of f. So this point over here is where the parabola turns. And the last point is Q is a point on G. So Q is a point on the straight line such that PQ is parallel to the y-axis. Oh, that means this line is parallel to the y-axis. Okay, that is all the information. Let's look at the first question. Question 5.1 says, determine the equation of G. So remember we said G is the straight line. So this is G over here. So 5.1, we are going to write the standard form of a straight line. Y is equal to mx plus c is the equation of a straight line. Now they gave us g of x. Instead of a c, they have a k. Okay, so let's go. This c refers to the y-intercept of the straight line. So wherever the straight line cuts the y-axis, so that is 8 over there. So that means we have our c. So y is equal to mx plus 8 because that's a positive 8. For me to get my m, I'm going to sub in a point on my line. So I'm going to sub this point over here because that's also on my straight line. I'm going to sub negative 4 and 0. Wherever there is an x, I'm now going to write negative 4. And where there's a y, I'm going to write 0. So I'm going to start with 0 is equal to m negative 4 plus 8. This is now negative 4m plus 8. I'm going to take the negative 4m over, so a positive 4m. This is now 8. Divide by 4. And I get my m to be 2. So therefore the equation of the straight line is y is equal to 2x and then plus 8. So that's the equation of the straight line. So I'm going to write this equation. Y is equal to 2x plus 8. Okay, let's look at the next question. Calculate the values of a, b, and c in f of x. So they give you the standard form, and they ask you to find a, b, and c. So the question is actually find the equation of the parabola. Because remember, f of x is this over here. That's f of x. So they want you to find the equation of f of x. So there's 2 ways to find the equation of a parabola. One is where the turning point is given. One is where you have the turning point. That's option number 1. Option number 2 is when they give you the x-intercepts. So when I look at this, they gave me the x-intercepts because there's a and c. That's the x-intercepts. So we are going with option number 2. So with option number 2, remember we write this down. Y is equal to a, open bracket, x minus the first x-intercept times x minus the second x-intercept. So this is the first x-intercept. That's the second one. And we must remember we're changing the signs. Y is equal to a. Then I have x. This is a minus 4. So it becomes a plus 4. And this is a positive 2. So it becomes a negative 2. Subbing in those 2 points, that's your first mark. Then, to solve for a, we want this a over here. We're going to sub in a point on our parabola. When you look at the yellow parabola, there, this b is on the parabola. 0 and 8. So we're going to sub in 0 and 8. So my x becomes 0 and my y becomes 8. It starts with y, so I must write 8 is equal to a. There's an x, so 0 plus 4. There's another x, 0 minus 2. This is 8. And this whole thing, you can put that in your calculator so you don't make mistakes. I get negative 8. But remember, it's times negative 8. So then I remove the brackets. This times this is negative 8. Divide by the number in front of a. So divide by negative 8. And I get a to be negative 1. Okay, so that's your next mark. So far you have 2 out of 5 for working out a. Then you're going to take this a and you're going to sub it back into that equation over there because now you have a. Let's do that. So I'm going to write y is equal to a is negative 1. And now I'm going to multiply this out. Leave the negative 1 in front, but keep your answer in a bracket. So y is equal to, keep the negative 1. So this is x squared. This is minus 2x. This is plus 4x. And this is negative 8. I keep my y. I keep my negative 1. Add the like terms first. So I'm going to add these two. So this is x squared. This is plus 2x. And that's minus 8. And only now I'm removing the brackets. So y is equal to, so I'm doing this, then that. So I get negative 1x squared minus 2x and plus 8. And there, according to the memo, you have your third mark. Now let's go to the question. The question was calculate the value of a, b, and c. A is the number in front of x squared. So this is minus 1. B is the number in front of x. So it's minus 2. And C is the number without the x there. That's 8. According to the memo, you get 2 more marks here. And that's how you get 5 out of 5. Let's go to the next question. The next question says 5.3. Show that the coordinates of P is negative 1 and 9. So you have to work out P over here. Refers to the turning point of the parabola. So we have to work out the turning point. To get the turning point of a parabola, when you have the equation in standard form, we use the formula x is equal to minus b over 2a. So let's just write a, b, and c down again quickly. So that number there is negative 1. B is the number in front of x. So that number is negative 2. And c is the number without x, positive 8. So I'm going to use that and work out my turning point. X is equal to minus, my b is negative 2. And over 2 and a is negative 1. Put that in your calculator and you get negative 1. So you've proved that the x value is negative 1. Now to get the y value, because a turning point has an x and a y value. Your x value is negative 1. To get the y value, we are going to sub in this negative 1 into our equation. Okay, so I am first going to write f of x down again. So f of x is negative x squared minus 2x plus 8. And into this equation, I'm going to make my x negative 1. So this is minus, there's x, so negative 1, minus 2, there's an x, plus 8, and I get this answer to be 9. So can you see I worked out the x and the y value. So there I proved it. P is negative 1 and 9. That is my turning point. You get a mark for working out the x and a mark for showing how you calculated the y. So when I go to P here, this is negative 1 and 9. And I can put that in. Our next question says, determine the range of f. F is our parabola, eh? So the range of a parabola. So you must know your theory, eh? If you have a smiley face, the range is y is greater than or equal to the y value of the turning point. It's greater than because the parabola will always be above the turning point. There's nothing down here. So that's why it's greater than. If you have a sad face parabola, your range is y is less than or equal to the y value of your turning point. Let's look at our parabola. If you look at f is a sad face parabola. So that means our range is going to look like this. So that means my range is y is less than or equal to the y value of the turning point. 9 over here is the y value of the turning point. So that means that's my range. And that's the answer to 5.4. Let's go on. We are doing 5.5. 5.5 says, determine the equation of the line P. So there's this new line. It's called P. That line is perpendicular to G. Okay, so that line is perpendicular to G. That line also passes through the point C. Let's call it P of x, and this one is called G of x. They are perpendicular, which means that where they cut each other, the angle is 90. The line P passes through C. The question is, find the equation of P. So, standard form for any straight line is y is equal to mx plus c. We know that if we take the gradient of one line times the gradient of the other line is equal to -1 if lines are perpendicular. So, if the gradient, let's write m is gradient. If the gradient of g of x, so here's the equation of g of x. The gradient is this number here in front. If that gradient is 2, then the gradient of p of x is the opposite sign. So if this is a positive 2, then the gradient of p of x is a negative. And if this is 2 over 1, remember 2 can be written as 2 over 1. Then the gradient of p of x is a negative 1 over 2. That's how you work out the gradients because the lines are perpendicular. If the gradient of one line is 3, the gradient of the other line is negative 1 over 3. If the gradient of one is 4, the gradient of the other one is negative 1 over 4 because the lines are perpendicular. You can write that in, or you can just make a sign like this, perpendicular lines. So we have our m. So you see this m over there? We have that m in our straight line. So y is equal to mx plus c. So far I have y is equal to -1/2 x plus c. And now I have to sub in a point on my line. So there's 2 and 0. It's on the line. It says our line passes through c. C was 2 and 0. So I'm going to sub 2 and 0. So wherever there's an x, I write 2. Wherever there's a y, I write 0. So I go 0 is equal to 1/2. And then I have the 2 plus c. So 0 is equal to -1 plus c. So I get my c to be a positive 1. So now I take this c and I just go write it in here. Therefore, the equation is y is equal to -1/2 x plus 1. Because c is a positive 1. So how do you get your 3 marks? So you get your first mark by working out the gradient. Then you get your second mark for working out c. And your last mark you get for writing the equation down. Let's look at the last question. Our last question is 5.6 and it says, calculate the length of the line PQ. Do you remember in the information it says PQ is parallel to the So on this line, all the x values are the same. If P's x value is negative 1, then Q's x value is also negative 1. So I need to get the y value of Q. Q is on the straight line. Can you see if you have a straight line here? Q is over here. So far, that's Q. So far, we have negative 1, but we don't know what y is. So I have to work out this y over there. So because Q is on the straight line, I'm going to write the equation of the straight line down. So I'm going to write the equation of the straight line down, this one over here. G of x, y is equal to 2x plus 8. Then I'm going to substitute the x value at that point. So I'm going to sub x is equal to negative 1. So y is equal to 2, negative 1 plus 8. I get my y to be 6. So the coordinates of Q is negative 1 and 6. So if I have a line like this, and this is negative 1 and 6, and this is negative 1 and 9, so I'm taking P and Q out there. So I'm just showing you. I want the distance of this line. So what I am going to do is, I'm going to say PQ is then top minus bottom. And I get 3. And when I say top minus bottom, I'm referring to the y values. So you can make a note. If you are looking for a vertical distance, we only look at the y values. So top minus bottom. And this is units. And you can also make a note, if you're looking for a horizontal distance, you would only look at the x values. And you would say the bigger number minus the smaller number. Would you get marks for this question? For this one, you would get a mark for the y values, the 9 and the 6, and for the answer. That will give you 2 marks over there. Okay, grade 11s, let's look at our last question. Our last question is 5.7 and it says, for which values of x is f of x over g of x greater than 0? So there's our question. Okay, so this question is similar to this question. So let's say you get a question like this. These two questions mean the same thing. So these two questions will have the same answer. Eh? If your question doesn't look like this in the exam, but it has a times, it's actually the same question. Let me help you answer this question. So first of all, do you see the 0 over there? That 0 means we are going to look for points in f of x where y is 0. And we're going to look for points on g of x where y is 0. Where y is 0 is the x-intercepts. That's the only place where y is 0. So I'm going to go look quickly for the straight line. The straight line only has one x-intercept. It's that one over here. So I'm going to make a note. For the straight line, negative 4 is my x-intercept. Okay? Then, for my parabola, I have two x-intercepts. It's this one and that one. So it's negative 4 and 2. So if you had a number line like this, there's negative 4 and a 2. I'm going to make a little block, go down like that. Then I'm going to write, so I'm going to write f of x here and g of x there. And now I'm going to ask questions. So I'm first going to look at f of x. So we always go from left to right. Okay, let's go. What happens before negative 4? On the parabola, are you below the x-axis or above? This is the question you ask yourself. Are you above the x-axis or are you below? That's the question we ask with this one. Remember we said we are only working with the x-intercepts. So with the x-intercepts, this is the question. Am I above or am I below? So I'm going to go before negative 4. I'm on the parabola and I'm going. So I'm going and I'm stopping there. So can you see? I stop there, okay? So am I above or below? I am below the x-axis. This is the x-axis. There it is. And that blue line is below the x-axis. Okay, so then I'm going to say below means minus. Then I'm going to ask myself, okay, what happens to the parabola from negative 4 to 2? So, okay, let's go. From negative 4 to 2. Am I above or below the x-axis? So remember, this is the x-axis. Again, the red line, that whole curve is above. So I am above. Then I'm going to move from negative 2 down and ask the same question. Am I above or below the x-axis? I am below. So there you go. Now I'm going to do the same for the straight line. So I've done f of x. Now I'm going to do g of x and ask the same questions. So let's go. Let's highlight the x-axis so you can see it's this one over here. I'm on the straight line, but the straight line only has one x-intercept. The straight line only has negative 4. So my question is only going to be, what happens before negative 4 and what happens after? So let's go. Before negative 4, I'm on the straight line. Look here. And I stop there. Am I above or below? I am below. So minus. Then, what happens after negative 4? After negative 4, look here. There we go. Am I above or below the x-axis? I am always above. So on my table, after negative 4, I am above and still above. I'm always above. Okay, so we're done filling in our table. So now, in the last line, I'm going to have, what is f of x divided by g of x? Because that was the question. So I'm going to go, what's a negative divided by a negative? It's a positive. What's a positive divided by a positive? It's a positive. What's a negative divided by a positive? It's a negative. Okay? Let's repeat that quickly. A negative over a negative is a positive. A positive over a positive is also a positive. A negative over a positive is a negative. So this is my answer now. Why did I divide now? Why did I say this over this? Because the question is this over this. Now the question was, where is this over this greater than or equal to 0? Because it's greater than, I'm going to look for the pluses. So I'm only looking for pluses because of the greater than sign. So there's a plus and there's a plus. And there's a minus. So because my pluses are over here, this is negative, this line is the number 2. So that side of 2 is positives. So my final answer is, it is where x is less than or equal to 2. So like on a number line, if this is 2, then we would say that side of 2. But because I'm dividing grade 11s, okay, there's just this little thing you must remember. When you divide, the denominator, this, can't be 0. Because if it's 0, it makes this whole question undefined. So you must ask yourself, where is g of x equal to 0? G of x is the straight line. So where is the straight line equal to 0? The straight line is equal to 0 by its x-intercept. So the x-intercept is negative 4. So that means x is less than or equal to 2, but x cannot be negative 4. X cannot be negative 4. Because when x is negative 4, this whole function is 0. And I can't divide by a 0. So that's a little bit tricky. But I think if you go over this again, you will understand.